I don't care. I mean, all of this is getting edited out, so none of it matters.
Good to know.
We're here, Sam. No.
You're still listening. This is our final transmission.
Oh, hey, Jamie, how's it going, bud?
You are so high pitched right now. This is the highest pitched I've heard you not impersonate a woman's voice.
Welcome to Final Transmission. It's me, Sam Russo, and you, Jamie Carruthers. We're talking about one horror movie a week until the end of time.
It's true. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing great. I seem to have lost my mind in the intervening days since our last episode. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Nothing weird is happening in my life at all.
You're drinking a beer.
I am drinking a beer. This week, Sam, we are talking about the 2002 British werewolf meets squaddies extravaganza, Dog Soldiers.
Yes, we are. 2002. Rated R, hour and 45. Hot off the press. 22 years ago.
Yeah, directed by Neil Marshall, who is probably most famous for directing The Descent. He directed some of my favourite British horror movies.
You bloody love The Descent.
I love The Descent. I love Doomsday, which is not really a horror movie, but I love it very, very much.
Mm-hmm.
Very silly, sort of Mad Max, Escape from New York, but in Britain situation. Can't recommend that highly enough.
Well, what was your first Neil Marshall movie, though? What did you see first?
It would have been Dog Soldiers.
Right. When, do you reckon?
2004.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. I remember when Doomsday came out, I went to like an all-day... I don't know what was wrong with me at this point in my life, but I went to an all-day screening of Neil Marshall movies called D-Day.
Okay.
Which was Dog Soldiers, Descent, and Doomsday. And then after that, I went to an all-night Mystery Science Theater 3000 marathon.
Jesus, you did not want to think.
It was... I don't recommend spending 24 straight hours in a cinema.
No, although I can't imagine that was the first or last time you've done that.
Not 24 hours. I've done big days and I've done big nights.
Yeah.
But first and last time, would not recommend it.
Okay.
The Mystery Science Theater marathon was great, though. They showed a bunch of Mystery Science Theater movies or episodes, a couple of riff tracks, but they also had the original like robot puppets there.
Oh, wow.
Like they were sort of weirdly in prams just at the front of the screen.
I like it. At that point, reality must have just begun to melt for you, though.
Yeah, it helped that. I mean, the purpose of the robots in Mystery Science Theater 3000 is to help ground Mike or Joel or Jonah now in a sort of reality, and it kind of worked for me.
Right.
In that moment, coming out of those bad movies and being able to, interact, although pretty one way, them towards me.
Well, it sounds like a very fond memory associated with Neil Marshall and his catalogue. A pretty great way to get started with the guy. Dog Soldiers in 2004, heyday shit. Did you feel like you were unearthing a hidden gem, or had it always been on your radar and you just got around to it?
I think, in British horror, I must have missed it as it first came out, but I think it was pretty well touted at the time. Obviously the box is like Evil Dead meets whatever. And so loads of high praise, loads of people really digging it. So it never felt like a particularly hidden gem to me.
Had some producer clout as well.
Yeah.
Had some good bods pushing it out there.
It also has a bunch of like fairly decent like British acting talent behind it. Most notably Sean Pertwee.
Yeah, at that point, absolutely. And I guess Liam Cunningham is a bit pre-mainstream But still, obviously, pretty famous in his own right and had been in some wonderful stuff. Lots of other names attached to the movie that never came to be, right? Some Jason Stathams, etc.
Yeah, I mean,
Sean
I don't
Pegg?
know if I would have
No, Sean
liked
Pegg. Sorry,
Simon
go on.
Pegg,
Simon Pegg, Sean Penn, Simon Pegg, whatever. Same fucking guy.
Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah. Sorry. Let's start again.
Okay.
Simon Pegg, for example.
Yep. Simon Pegg. I don't know if I would have liked it if, say, Simon Pegg or Jason Statham. For Simon Pegg to come on this off the back of Spaced at that time, but before Shaun of the Dead, would have felt weird to me.
I mean, it probably wouldn't have at the time because you wouldn't have known the alternative reality in which he wasn't in the movie.
No, it's true, but I would have. It would have felt incongruous sitting in between Spaced and Shaun of the Dead, two things that sit in a very similar space in terms of humor and approach, and obviously creative minds behind it. So it would have felt weird. And then Statham, I think, like, I know that he wasn't exactly the Jason Statham that we know and love today. Back in 2002.
Yeah.
But I mean, it would have been too much. We'll get into this later, but there are some pretty decent acting moments in this movie. And if it was Jason Statham trying to do that, trying to have these sort of tender moments with his sergeant, that would have been shit.
I think the less said about how much this movie benefits from not having Jason Statham in it, the better.
Yeah. So, a synopsis, Sam. I'm going to give you a synopsis.
I love this bit. Story time with Jamie.
And then we're going to take a break and come back, and then you're going to tell me how much you still hate dog soldiers.
Brilliant. I should have watched it, really, shouldn't I? Wait, I'm only kidding. Of course I watched it.
So, Dog Soldiers, 2002, Neil Marshall, hour 45, 15. It's the story of a gang of soldiers on a training mission in the Scottish Highlands.
Do they call them a gang in the army?
Yeah. I mean, what is the army if not a big gang?
A big gang, yeah, good point. Please carry on. My apologies.
They're on a training mission in the Highlands, but all is not as it seems. There are other soldiers there that aren't necessarily on the training mission. And there also seems to be giant wolf-like men or men like wolves or whatever stalking in the distance.
Yeah, and that's, you definitely avoided the word werewolf there, I noticed. Is that to avoid spoilers?
I mean, it's a werewolf movie, right?
Yeah. I mean, everything about it screams werewolf movie, except the characters who don't like saying the word werewolf for some reason.
Well, how many zombie films have they said the word zombie?
Not many good ones.
Yeah.
No.
It's weird because it's like we all know that they're zombies and they all make up different words for them. Walkers or...
Yeah. Does
whatever.
this movie sound good to you on paper? When someone says Scottish Highlands, army guys on exercise encountering werewolves in the wilderness, do you think, fuck yeah, or do you think, meh?
No, I think fuck yeah, because much like Cops, I don't really love squaddies.
Let's
Like,
refer to them respectfully as army boys from now on, please.
I mean, I think there's a difference between like army men and squaddies.
Yeah.
And I feel like the people in this movie are squaddies.
Yeah, they're definitely army boys. Yeah, for sure.
I do think it sounds good on paper. I like the idea of watching a bunch of army boys getting mushed to a pulp by big claws.
So you're in the right place.
I'm absolutely in the right place.
Well, let's have a break and come back to this right place to dig a little bit deeper into dog soldiers.
Whoa, holy shit. I guess that's why they call it Phantom Power.
Okay, we're back. Sam, are you back?
Oh, very suddenly back in the room.
So in 1 week from now, Sam,
Yep.
you will be at the Punk Rock Museum celebrating with Fat Mike and Keith Morris and the ghost of Joe Strummer 20 years of dreaming and scheming with the Red Scare Industries guys. How do you feel about that?
Pretty great. I think if Joe's coming back for a party, it's probably not the Red Scare 20th anniversary, but we can hope. We can still have the vigil, get the Ouija board out. Yeah, so the weekend of the 27th to the 29th, I'm at the Punk Rock Museum in Las Vegas, Nevada, playing shows, doing guided tours, hanging out, having some fun. Playing in Seattle and Portland before that, playing in LA after that. Good times.
Yeah, and if you want to celebrate without traveling all the way to the West Coast of America, you can order the compilation, 20 Years of Dreaming and Scheming.
Yeah.
Loads of great bands on it. Sam's on it, Laura Jane Grace, Elway, bangers upon bangers upon bangers. 17 tracks of steaming hot, white, blood-curdling, amazing music.
Yeah, Jamie's right. If you don't want to travel 5,000 miles for it, like me, you can just buy the fucking record or just listen to it on streamers. Get out there and do the thing.
Do what you can or die.
Yep, or die. That's us threatening you with death if you don't.
I think do what you can or die is words to live by.
Yeah, do what you can or die. It feels like one of those state mottos, like Idaho, famous potatoes. Yeah, feels like that.
Yeah.
What's happening in the Scottish Highlands? Werewolves. That's what's happening.
That's true.
How much do you love it that people from New Jersey say werewolves?
I've never heard that. Well, I don't think I've ever had a conversation about werewolves with someone from New Jersey.
They say woof instead of wolf. So, Scott, is this your favourite movie set in Scotland?
No.
What is?
Well, I like Doomsday more, and that is set in Scotland for a big chunk of it.
Where was that church movie set? Was that in Scotland?
No, that was somewhere in like Warwickshire or something, right?
Bluntinghamshire, somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also, as you well know, Sam, adore The Wicker Man, the original, obviously,
of course,
not the Nick Cage remake.
Scottish Highland.
And that is set on Scottish Highland.
As a Welshman, yeah, you love Scotland.
I'm not Welsh.
He's so Welsh. Everyone knows you're Welsh. Stop trying to hide it.
I am English and my dad is Scottish. So by American
Which makes
standards...
you Welsh. You mix those two together, what do you get? Welsh.
By American standards, that makes me the most Scottish man that ever lived.
Yeah, right. Absolute kilt and bagpipes walking down the street. It's everyone knows that's how you make a Welshman. You have a Scottish kid shag a Scottish... No, wait. Anyway, we're in Scotland. There's werewolves everywhere. We're out on patrol. We're squaddies.
Yeah,
what's happening?
I want to know, Sam, because you told me, or you made some disapproving noises when I said that we were going to be covering Dog Soldiers.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I want to know. I want to know what your memories of having seen this before are.
Yeah.
And what that baggage looks like.
Okay, it's a pretty long, deep, detailed story, so I'll give you the short version. Turns out I hadn't seen this before after all.
Okay.
I slapped it on, I sat down, and was astonished to learn that none of it was familiar at all, and I haven't seen it, which is such a weird movie to think you've seen before, but have not ever seen before, because it's quite distinct. I
wonder what you thought it was.
Fuck knows. I don't know, something I saw when I was drunk when I was a teenager, probably. I don't know, maybe something broke in my brain. But as soon as I started watching it, I was like, none of this is ringing any bells. And yeah, it turns out I hadn't seen it. So it was my first time viewing.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. And also promising, because I was confused as to why you wouldn't like this movie.
Really?
Yeah, I think basically it's a great movie. Right. I have some fundamental issues with it.
Right.
Mostly Neil Marshall's seemingly very difficult relationship with women.
Oh, yeah, I was going to... My take on your take was that I thought you would, for some reason, adopt an arbitrarily stern position on this movie, and that you would hold it to a very high standard of scrutiny for absolutely no reason. I don't know why I thought that. It just felt like one of those movies you might take to task, even though you really like it.
No, I don't think so. I think for the most part, I really like it. It's just that it's some of the special effects shots linger a little bit too long on like bad stuff. For the most part, it doesn't, and that's great. And we'll get into that a bit more. But I think the main criticism is just a lot of the dialogue is really good and like really heartfelt and strangely wholesome for a movie about soldiers. but then sometimes it sacrifices good in order to try and be cool, and it fails every single time. And the most egregious example of that is the stuff that Megan says towards the end, which is some of the most. I mean, Sam, me and you, we are us, right? But we can recognize horrible misogyny when it is slapping us in the face.
I don't know, dude. You might be speaking from a place of authority that I've not yet reached. I don't remember anything she said.
So she says, being nice to women will get you nowhere.
Oh,
Being nice to me will get you killed.
Yeah.
You might think they're all bitches, but I'm the real thing.
Oh, yeah, and then she says she's on her period or something before she turns into a werewolf.
Literally.
Now then, I thought that was pretty in character and didn't have a problem with any of it and didn't look at it beyond what was happening in the little box in front of me as like a hot take on, bigger picture societal misogyny. I did not go there, but I'm glad you did, and sure, could be.
Like, I don't think that Neil Marshall is a misogynist. Let's obviously cancel him just in case, but that dialogue is weird to me.
It's in no way the worst dialogue in the film. I think
there is no spoon. How do you feel about that?
Fucking heck. And that was fine. I got two quick solves for the things that this movie struggles with. Number one, remove all references to football. And you've got characters who actually start talking like human beings. Whoever wrote this movie, probably not a football fan. Because who the fuck on earth is going to say, be careful you don't foul her in the penalty box when talking about fucking someone and football? That is the worst line ever committed to celluloid. It was unforgivable.
Yeah, and also like all this talk about penalty shootouts. Like,
Shut the fuck up. Like, nobody talks like that.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine, for the sake of this movie, these guys talking like that. It's not realistic at all. And I know it's a werewolf movie. Believe me, I can hear you shouting it's a fucking werewolf movie, but you need them to be more real. So honestly, go through this movie, cut out every line about football. I did it while I was going through. I rewatched a few scenes and omitted the football stuff, and they talk like normal humans. So just about, like, right on the line, but yeah, just about. Anyway, spoiler alert, I actually think this movie fucking rips.
Yeah, no, definitely rips.
A few big whoopsies in the dialogue department.
Yeah, I think, like I say, I think when the dialogue is meant to be earnest and heartfelt, it really nails that.
Just about, yeah.
Like, no small part due to Sean Pertwee and Kevin McKidd being pretty fucking decent actors.
Pretty likable in this as well.
Yeah, Sean Pertwee is absolutely the king of being like the hard man with a heart of gold.
He's, pretty good. I can't put either of these guys particularly high on my, I love you lists. I'm not going to go hyperbolically buffing their balls to a high shine over this movie, but I do enjoy them in this for sure, and I'm glad it's them and not someone else.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly it. I think if you had, can you imagine an American movie about soldiers versus werewolves? And
I read that was one of the like almost pre-production sequels that came out of this was American soldiers in England on maneuvers encountering or being werewolves or something. And I did think to myself in the moment, I was like, well, that's Predator with werewolves, so I'd probably enjoy it.
This is I mean, the issue there is there are some amazing American movies about soldiers, right?
Yeah.
But you can count the ones that exist in the horror genre on 3 fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Predator, Aliens, one just in case someone thinks of another one and you have to give it to them. And that's it.
You always got a spare one.
Yeah.
None spring to mind for me, really. Predator. Love Predator.
Add on top of that the fact that we're making this in 2002. So a 2002 low-budget horror movie about American soldiers versus werewolves. It's going to be the worst thing you've ever seen. One of the most egregious crimes against cinema.
It's hard to pinpoint what you would enjoy less in a movie, English soldiers or American soldiers.
Oh, Day of the Dead. There you go.
Yeah, Day of the Dead, yeah. There's a lot of movies where you get like a military presence or a military character, but they're not, military-based horror movies necessarily.
Yeah,
Good thing you saved that third finger, eh?
absolutely.
There's no knowing where that was going to end up. So,
Popped it out just in time.
my two big suggestions to improve Dog Soldiers as a fucking complete genius filmmaker myself. One, take out all the football stuff. Rewrite that script for the 18th time and take out the football stuff. Two, Frog Soldiers. Let's go. Ribbit, ribbit.
Frog Soldiers would be good.
Be great.
That's if they did a French remake, though, right?
Fuck yeah, now you're talking. That's the French in you coming out, you Welsh Frenchman. So, I think fundamentally, this is a really fucking fun movie. It does so much stuff really, really well. It's fast. It's really tight. The characters are pretty well drawn, pretty likable, well explored, well rendered. The creatures look fucking great. These wolves are really genuinely quite scary and right on the cusp of silly when they need to be. The plot kind of holds together, I think. There's some wobbly whoopsies, but who cares? It's going at such a gallop by the time the shit starts to fall apart a little bit that you kind of skim it and it doesn't matter. Has a solid ending. I liked it. I really found it fucking solidly entertaining from start to finish. And you can't switch off much. There's always something happening in this movie.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it looks amazing as well. It's shot on, I want to say 16mm, maybe Super 16. So like, it has this real documentary look about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, it doesn't look like a documentary because it's a film about fucking soldiers fighting werewolves. But like, it has, I don't know, late night BBC Two chin stroker look to it.
Yeah.
And I love that. It gives it such a gritty little edge.
I love everything that's shot in the woods at daytime is absolutely brilliant because it looks exactly how the woods in daytime look through your actual human eyes. It's not Hollywoodified in the slightest. You haven't got all these fucking lens flares and perfect contrast and beautiful colors. It's just bare undergrowth, trees, and blown out white shit between them. And that's exactly what it's like walking through the woods. And it feels 80s as fuck in those daytime shots. And I really appreciate that. For a movie in 2002 to have the feel, like you said, of a gritty, realistic British army movie from the 80s is fantastic.
Yeah, no, I think so. I have a bit of an issue with like the setting or the locations rather. I don't think that Luxembourg looks remotely like Scotland.
No, not at all. It doesn't feel like the Scottish Highlands. You don't get any. I did expect some vistas, maybe a loch, something like that to really identify it as Scotland. I don't know why they insisted on keeping it as Scotland if they could have just said they were in Luxembourg,
Yeah. I think so the characters that they meet, the indigenous characters that they meet are speaking English.
Yeah.
But like
one of them.
Yeah. I rewatched Prometheus recently. And in that opening scene, I was like, this is Scotland. And it was like, and then the Chiron came up being like, fucking Scotland.
No way.
And I was like, so like Scotland plays like very specifically.
Yeah.
Prometheus, better than I remembered it. Not particularly good, but I had some fun with it. I also rewatched Alien Covenant.
Oh, nice.
Bag of shit.
Oh, god damn it.
Bag of stupid people making the worst decisions. Absolute idiot bullshit. Nonsense.
I thought you'd enjoy it.
I mean, I didn't not enjoy it, but it was fucking dumb.
It's shit. They're both shit. They're all fucking awful. But I actually think I misjudged Covenant, and when I rewatched it, I enjoyed it as an action romp.
Sure, fair enough. So
Scotland as a character skimmed in this, not really given any identity. But that's fine, because to me, English squaddies on exercise somewhere don't tend to stop and marvel at the beauty of the Scottish wilderness. They just fucking get on with it wherever they are. So the fact that the setting remains fairly anonymous and quite oppressive at times feels appropriate. Yeah, interesting point from you there. I would have liked more, like Nessie and haggis and shit flying around, but, you get what you get.
the phrase dog soldiers, right, that has a meaning. That's a real phrase.
Yeah.
Irrelevant to British soldiers. It's like a Native American thing, right?
Well, I mean, I thought they were going to explore that a little bit more in the movie, but it's not really touched upon. And it's not just a clever name. It is a cool title for the movie. It's pretty fucking iconic, right?
Yeah, but like it doesn't mean anything.
No.
It'd be like calling your film about. Oh, I can't even think of anything funny, so that's already been.
Go on.
Out.
Yeah, no, you've started it now, Jamie.
It'd be like calling your film Final Conclusion, which is about like maths. Do you know what I mean? Like that has a meaning, a specific meaning in the world that isn't, about Albert Einstein trying to figure out how to create a nuclear bomb or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think I might be right in saying that the title for this movie has been the title because it went through a ton of drafts, right? The guy famously wrote like fucking 18 versions of it, but it was always called Dog Soldiers. He always had that initial idea, I think. Is that true?
Yeah, because like it's a cool phrase, and it plays on a couple of levels. There,
let me tell you one of them: soldiers that are dogs.
Yeah. Oh, are werewolves dogs?
Yeah, sure.
Can you tame a werewolf? Do you reckon? I want to see that movie.
Definitely, yeah. My Pet Werewolf, starring Jamie Carruthers.
My Pet Werewolf. I mean, My Pet Werewolf sounds like a thing that I would make or watch. Would it be about your normal pet? You've got a pet human, and he turns into a werewolf. Because that sounds a lot like slavery.
Slave Wolf. Now that's a movie I'll watch.
Yeah.
It's a retelling.
12 Years a Werewolf.
Yeah. Retelling of America's struggle to eradicate slavery, but everyone is werewolves, including the free man. So I like the phrase. I'd encountered it in my endless readings about Native American culture. That's why I think it's cool. I don't care if it fits really. I just like it. I think it's really well titled. It's really well shot. It's largely well acted. It has a few little whoopsie doos, but for the most part, I'm pretty much riveted from the second the whole fucking thing. Like, I don't think it's clunky that you have a bit of a foreshadowing. Here's the fucking weapon that's going to end it all in the first 5 seconds. I like the way we get to know the characters on exercise. I like the way we're introduced to Cooper with a moral dilemma, and we see that he doesn't make it into special forces and has to go back to, gruntdom and go on exercise and be cold and miss the football. I enjoy that. I think that's a really good setup.
Yeah, even though we're back in dead dog territory.
Yeah, immediate dead dog city. Wow, holy crap. Horrible dead dog scene.
Yeah, I mean, at least we don't get to see the dog get dead, but like...
Yeah, tastefully off screen.
Yeah. If it was me, I might have folded in a little yelp, but...
Yeah, oh yeah, you'd have to, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Missed opportunity there, big time.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the characterization is really good, particularly the relationship between Coop and Sean Pertwee's character, H.G. Wells, for some fucking reason.
I know. H.G. Wells and Bruce Campbell. What is happening?
Yeah. But some of the characterization I think is really fucking lazy. And like Liam Cunningham as the Special Forces leader, Ryan, basically has a glowing neon sign that says baddie just above him the whole time.
Oh, the second he walks on screen, yeah. It's really? The guy who just blows a dog's head off and kicks you out of Special Forces because you wouldn't do it yourself is the baddie. Fuck me, stop press. Shyamalan in the house.
He's got such a metaphorical mustache that he's twirling throughout the whole movie.
I like him as a real baddie, though. I think he's a great arch villain.
Yeah. I also think, I don't think that Neil Marshall is trying to say anything with this movie. I don't think there's any, ulterior subtext about whatever. But I do think there's a weird little class thing there. Obviously, all of the dog soldiers, in air quotes, have regional accents, and he's a big posh sod.
Yeah, I just don't think you can have an even remotely believable depiction of the British Army if you don't have the Special Forces guy be posher. Or, or like some fucking officer who's a complete foil who has no common sense. It's a classic trope for a reason, and it's a thing that audiences respond to and latch onto well. So I think you have to have that divide. You have to feel like you're in the trenches with the grunts, and you have to feel like it's an us against them thing, even though we all have to fucking work together, that kind of vibe. I think that's really important. I'd like to see a movie where that's subverted and there's a kind of fun exploration of that dynamic that's maybe a little bit more nuanced. But for this fucking movie, where it's guys v wolves, yeah, you fucking need that. It's the crux of the action.
If there is a subtext take out there that anyone has, please share it with us. I'd be really interested to hear about that. I'm always looking for shit like that, especially, class. And there is a class element here, but I do think it's what you say. It's just like we have to show that he's above them. Like,
yeah, and he's obviously the thing that I think makes him menacing is special forces are fucking highly skilled, semi-mercenary elite soldiers. So I'm immediately worried when I see one. And these guys are we're told several times, out of uniform, no insignia, no name badge, no nothing. So that makes them feel real like shadow ops guys, and I find those guys fucking terrifying. Even in this really low rent version where he's just wearing like a black jumper, you still think, oh, fucking hell, don't like untie him. He'll break your neck in 2 seconds. So
yeah,
I love that. And I think it's one of my favorite Liam Cunningham roles immediately. I find him really compelling in this. If maybe a little bit side staged, I think he could have been a little bit more arch. Maybe a little bit more dialogue would have been nice. He doesn't say too many dumb things, so I'm always kind of waiting for him to speak. But I enjoyed him.
I think he's very arch.
Yeah, maybe I just if you give me a little bit of arch, give me a pinch an inch, I want to fucking yank a yard. Give me the full fucking Arc de Triomphe. I want to fucking really live it.
You know, I think he is archy as fuck. But like, I think all of the performances. I think the performances that have to be good are good, which is him, it's Sean Pertwee, and it's Kevin McKidd as Cooper.
Yeah.
Everyone else doesn't need to be good. Like Emma Cleesby as Megan sometimes is good, but sometimes, like I say, is given some of this really terrible dialogue. It's a real testament that, is it Sean Pertwee who says, if Red Riding Hood shows up with a bazooka and a bad attitude, I expect you to chin the bitch.
Yeah.
Like, that is one of the few, I'm going to write a cool line that no one in the world would ever say. And he delivers it in a way that isn't terrible. Him and Cooper have an exchange later where he's like, let's get in the wardrobe, son. Yeah, all right. Like,
there's loads of that. So the thing I have a theory about this, and I don't want to pretend I know fucking anything about anything, but I think a lot of this dialogue is massively overwritten. If you redrafted this 18 times and you're sitting there staring at loads of fucking football banter that just feels sterile and just slightly offbeat enough to, really shine out as being disingenuous, it just kind of smells a little bit like someone had to fucking keep going back and just sort of lost sight of what real people say in real situations. Because the dialogue has to be believable for you to believe that these humans are humans, and it's really important that you buy into that for there to be any jeopardy with the werewolves. So there are clangers and there are absolute howlers, but like you said, there's some beauties in there as well.
Absolute howlers.
Well, hello. Who, obviously.
But I do think that, like, some of the dialogue is borderline too good for a movie called Dog Soldiers.
Really?
Like the stuff where Wells has been bitten and is about to die. Or, in fact, the stuff where he's in the woods and he orders Cooper to leave him and he refuses, and that stuff's quite good.
Yeah.
And then later when he's like, he knows that he's going to turn into a werewolf at any moment, and they have like quite a heartfelt scene, and it's genuinely quite good. And I think it's good writing and good actors. I mean, I am not going to say that these are the best actors that Britain has to offer, but they're the best actors that this movie has to offer. And they deliver the dialogue for this movie in a real solid way. Same as like The Descent. Like a big chunk of that cast went on to do basically nothing, or like not coast, but exist in a very specific space within British horror, British sort of low to mid-budget horror in the 2000s. But in that movie, so the combination of their performances and that writing, they just sort of come together really nicely. And that's exactly what's happening here. Like, I think we've seen Sean Pertwee give pretty damn good performances in other stuff, not just stuff that Neil Marshall's written, although he is pretty good in Doomsday. I'll blow that trumpet once again. Kevin McKidd, like, I don't know if I recognize him from anything else. Don't think I've ever remembered him from seeing him in anything else.
I was going to ask you if you were familiar with him, because he came across to me as somebody that maybe had done loads of stuff I hadn't seen. But it turns out no. I mean, he's Tommy in Trainspotting. That's the only thing I really know him from. And
that suggests that he's quite good, because like you don't remember him as this guy.
He's in a bunch of Grey's Anatomy for the Grey's Anatomy fans out there.
Yeah.
But I think the reason he works in stuff like this is that he doesn't have to be this big ostentatious character. He doesn't have to be super memorable. If anything, you want your soldiers to be a little bit indeterminate and indistinguishable from one another at times. And I think he has a very rank and file vibe, but he has a moral compass that the audience can kind of get hold of, and we back him from the start. You know, he doesn't kill that dog, therefore he's our guy. So you're rooting for him from the beginning, whether or not you know him from other shit, or whether he's a face that resonates with you. I think it's a really strong performance because it's a little bit held back and toned down, and really appropriate for the for the setting and for the kind of jeopardy that they're in. He's a cool-headed character that you can get behind.
Yeah, I think like basically everyone else is fine, not good, but fine.
Yeah,
Spoon, Bruce, Joe, all those guys. Like
I like everything that everyone does acting wise in this movie, and the only things I fault is the dialogue they have to deliver that is very often shocking.
I wonder if like I don't know, better actors could deliver those lines better. Or
I just think I think shit writing shines through. Unfortunately, that's not fair. I think when you give a great actor bad dialogue, you get a great performance of bad dialogue. And even so, the scene where Wells Pertwee is freaking out on the bed with his guts hanging out, and they're gluing him up or whatever. I don't think he does a great job there, to be honest. But it feels really genuine, and it feels like a performance that he's living and pushing to his limit as an actor. And
I think he's really drunk in that scene.
Yeah. What do you think in real life?
Yeah.
Really?
I believe that they got him drunk because Neil Marshall doesn't believe that you can act drunk.
Very interesting.
But then,
what do you think? Can you act drunk?
There are very few people who are convincing when they're acting drunk. But then I also think, can you be drunk and also act well?
That's definitely flawed logic there. Like, let's get you wasted and then have you do the thing that you're a professional at really well. That doesn't really work in many scenarios, does it?
No, like if you're a crane operator, this is how we end up with the plot of Wishmaster. So,
I mean, also, like, how are you supposed to resonate emotionally with the scene if you've essentially wiped your emotional slate for the purposes of performance? It doesn't make any sense to me. Probably hard to act drunk. Super hard for me to act sober when I'm drunk. That's a superpower I've not mastered.
But the like I say, the scene when he's like, I just didn't make it back this time. I think that is really good dialogue. And like, I don't know if maybe Neil Marshall sat down with a bunch of squaddies and talked to them about things like this happening. Obviously not werewolves, but like people dying on maneuvers or when they're out doing army shit.
Yeah.
And those sorts of conversations and how those conversations went, because like stuff like that rings really true. I mean, it's a little bit Hollywood,
but it's got to be,
Yeah.
And that's where the movie, again, like, I don't know why I'm slagging this off. It fucking rips. That's the only time it lets it down. And I know I'm hypercritical of British performances and especially of British horror, but you get this great monologue about his friend who gets blown up, and I think it's wholly realistic in a movie. Do you know what I mean? We're in movie land, but you believe it. You believe that he feels that way. You believe the thing happened. It's beautifully delivered for the most part. But then you just go back to this like lads bants dialogue that totally undermines it because it doesn't feel real. It's like, okay, I know how to write good dramatic scenes where people are being earnest and talking about things that have really affected them, but I don't fucking know how lads talk at all. So I'm just gonna do like, oop-de-doo, apples and pears, fucking shagged her, didn't I? Like, yeah. God, next. Like, just skip it.
Yeah, I think that's the real issue. And I wonder if, like, you could just have your guys improvise those scenes.
If you had guys who could access that, a lived experience or just like a really good, improv bone, then yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, these are all young men that have presumably groups of mates and, live lives. Then they could at least access... They could riff on that in character, and it would feel 1,000 more reels.
Yeah, for sure. There's got to be a thing here where you're writing this movie and you're thinking of an American audience, and maybe you're thinking this shit needs to be absolutely telegraphed, or Americans aren't going to get it. I read a lot of reviews about this where Americans were saying they didn't understand a word that was coming out of half the English characters' mouths because they just didn't get the regional accents, and that's fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, but still, a huge part of me thinks, how much of this is dumbed down for an audience that maybe doesn't understand the nuance of the culture. You know, nobody on planet Earth above the age of 9 has ever said to a group of lads, foul her penalty box, or whatever the fuck he says. It's so egregious. So I just think maybe that's some dumbed down bullshit for people who don't get it.
Yeah.
Who knows? How many times am I going to make that noise this episode? I'm so sorry.
So the werewolves, I think, are for the most part amazing. I think like they do so much. Obviously, Neil Marshall has taken the right lesson from Jaws, which is like keep it as minimal as possible until you absolutely have to show them.
Yep.
And then when you have to show them, like keep it short. There are a couple, like I said, there are a couple of shots that linger on a bad effect, touch too long, and it looks a little bit goofy and shit. But for the most part, it's great. They do amazing stuff with silhouettes, great stuff with like up lighting and intense lighting to make the werewolves look great. They're people inside costumes.
On
and like,
stilts.
Yeah, and normally that looks like ass.
Right.
But it's good. It works here. I think, did I read that he like lowered the roofs so they all have to sort of crouch a little bit?
Yeah.
And that's clever.
Yeah. There's so much done to build their presence, and like you said, to hide enough and show enough, and that's really artful, and it shows that you know your audience and that you understand what viewers are going to want. These werewolves are fucking brilliant. They're some of my favorite werewolves I've ever seen, and hot take, I think they're really sexy. I think it's really important that these werewolves look really fuckable for the most part in this movie. They're just, yeah, brilliant. They fucking sizzle.
I'm not sure that I agree that they are fuckable, or even that it's important that werewolves are fuckable. But
You don't think your werewolf needs to be fuckable?
mine doesn't. My pet.
Fuck your pet. I actually
I will
think
not.
there's a quintessential sexuality to the whole werewolf mythology that I think is quite often overlooked, bypassed a little bit. And these wolves are shaggerific, baby. I love them. They're also incredibly dangerous, which I fully rate, because they just swipe an arm and you're gutted. Your guts are in your hands. And I love that level of threat. It kind of waxes and wanes, no pun intended, throughout the movie. You can fist fight one, for example, at one point, which is great. But for the most part, even when they're showing the werewolf top to bottom, fully lit, I still think, fuck yeah, that's great. There's some mobility issues from sort of the chest up that don't look particularly real, but you're watching real effects in a real movie with real people, and it just feels brilliant every time they're on screen.
Yeah, I love that Neil Marshall had the guts to be like, I can't afford good CGI effects, so I'm not even going to try.
Don't do any of that shit, bud. Stick to your guns, stick some people in suits. But they're really great suits, and the makeup works fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know what my favorite werewolf is in movies. I love werewolves, but this has pretty much like wiped a load of others out of my memory. I really like it.
I also really rate the idea that we don't really have to see a transformation scene. There's like
100%.
a couple where you get the contact lens with when Ryan is transforming, and like you see the hand, and the hand sells it along with the performance, and then he falls behind the table, and then bam, he's a full on werewolf. That's completely fine. Like
It's
don't
more
have
than
to,
fine. Yeah, it's preferable. Like Neil Marshall understands the scariest parts of the werewolf transformation are fundamentally the moments where you know that you've lost the humanity of the person that's changing, and that's all in the eyes. The teeth are a nice touch, and the hands look rad, so throw them in. But the thing that sells it, like you say, is that it happens off screen. It leaves you wanting to see it, but it doesn't give you something that sucks. It doesn't just glue some fucking hair on and have like a shadow where you're screaming and getting longer. You know, all that stuff just is protracted and unnecessary in my opinion, because you want to get from 0 to 60 pretty quickly, and you want to watch them lose all of who they are as a person and become the beast, and you get that through the contact lenses. It's really well done.
Like I love American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
And I think the transformation scenes in that are amazing, like visually.
I think they're impressive, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think it sells the losing of humanity.
Nah.
And that's the fundamental issue that I have with American Werewolf in London.
And
I think you can do much more with much, much less.
Oh yeah, with nothing,
as they've shown
basically.
here. Yeah.
Yeah. And I absolutely love that. And I watched it and I did think to myself, some people are going to think that's a pulled punch, but it's just not. It's just a real shrewd decision to preserve the integrity of your creature effects and give people exactly what they want and keep shit moving. You see so many bad werewolf transitions that ruin the whole character, that totally take away the already incredibly challenging task of convincing you this person's turning into a wolf. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, just fucking nailed it, bud. And twice, to do it really well twice, yeah, bang on. Because we've got Wolf Cop. Do you know what I mean? We've got loads of movies where they just hang the entire movie on the transformation. Fine, great, do that. But they're not as good as this.
No, like they could be impressive, visually impressive, but then they never sell it the same way. And it's because you've got your actor in a secret underground compartment with his head poking out and a prosthetic on the floor wiggling around. Like Tommy Lee Jones couldn't give a good performance under those conditions. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know, buddy. He's pretty good.
Well, I know he's good.
It's Tommy Lee.
That's why I picked him.
Yeah.
I discounted a bunch of amazing actors that you hate first.
Who?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh, you dick.
Gary Oldman.
Oh, Gary Oldman. Fuck me. The less said about Gary Oldman today, the better. I was having a good day. Listen, what do you think of the gore in this movie? I'm very interested in Jamie Carruthers' take on the gore.
I mean, I think the gore, I mean, it's a very gory movie, but it's not the most memorable thing about the movie, and I think that's good.
Yeah, I thought they were going to fuck it up because it's squaddies, and because it's English, and because it's werewolves. I thought that was just going to be like severed limbs, beheadings, constant like spray gore. Because I read obviously that some people draw a parallel between this and some Evil Dead stuff, and I thought, okay, we're going to be turning on the fire hoses. It doesn't happen, and it's fucking great.
Yeah, well, I think the Evil Dead thing is they're in a cabin, but bad guys are trying to get in. Like, you know, horror monsters are trying to get in, and people say goofy shit. Like, that's the Evil Dead thing, right?
I suppose the goofy shit tracks. Yeah, I didn't see it as, maybe I'm being pedantic, but I thought it was a big cottage, and it felt more like an old Dark House movie to me than it did, you know, an Evil Dead type thing, you know.
Well, I think Evil Dead is a siege in the same way that Assault on Precinct 13 or Rio Bravo is.
Yeah.
So, like, this is what Rio Fido.
I love a well-executed siege. A bad siege movie is so boring, and a good siege movie is fucking life-changing.
It's hard to hang a hat on this being like a siege movie like that because it takes a while for them to get to the cottage.
Yeah.
And then they also leave the cottage like before the climax. So there's only like, I don't know, maybe 30-minute section of classic Rio Bravo style siege.
Which is probably enough, you know, that you know, I'm not going to say anything negative about Rio Bravo, but there are other movies where you spend too long in one isolated situation for the movie to feel like it's got much pace. And maybe that causes you to dig too deep into a really boring character, or just it goes off the rails somewhere, usually in that long section.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest criticism of Assault on Precinct 13, the original John Carpenter movie, is that, like, we are almost entirely one location. And I think that movie's great, but I think if there was a criticism, it would be that there are stretches where you were like, I wonder what's happening outside. Why can't we just go outside for a minute and think about what's happening there?
Yeah, you always need a break in a siege movie for the characters to catch their breath, to get a bit of exposition. All that kind of stuff is healthy. But look at how well Splinter does it. Look at how well The Mist does it. You know, horror movies can take that siege trope and turn it into something really, really crucial to the horror element. And this movie does that to a certain extent, but I don't think by that point I'm really watching a horror movie. I'm just watching a fucking really cool action movie by that point. And that's why I stopped thinking about themes, really, about 10 minutes into this movie. I'm not digging into anything except what I'm seeing, because it's just an entertaining action movie at that point.
I don't think there are themes here. I don't think that we're trying to say anything. I mean, I wanted to press you on this a little bit because it sort of bugged me how referential it is to other things.
Right.
And how do you feel about that? There's direct lines taken from Aliens. There's short control bursts. That's a line from Aliens.
Yeah, sure. It might just be a military thing, though.
It's not.
Oh, okay.
Like, the fact there's a character called Bruce Campbell, the fact there's a character called Harry G. Wells, like all of that stuff. There is no spoon, for instance, which is Like, I bet when you were sat alone in your room writing that down, you thought, this is fucking funny. I've named a character Spoon, and he's dead.
There is no spoon.
Yeah. But, like,
No.
pretty egregious. I think, like, 2002, we were in the sort of meta horror time period. We were in the sort of postmodern period of horror. Neil Marshall can do that really well. I think he does that really well in Doomsday. Yet again, suck the cock of that movie. Like, that movie is 4 of your favorite post-apocalyptic movies jammed together really awkwardly, and it works magically as a result.
Right.
Have you seen Doomsday?
No.
Okay, well, I won't go into too much more detail, but like that's what it does. This feels a little bit like that character in Dead Snow who's like, hey, this is like the thing.
Yeah. There's very few things that put me off a movie more than self-referential horror. That kind of whimsy or trying to be like, it just turns me off immediately. We've talked about it a lot in the past. I won't bang on about it, but what I don't mind in the slightest is, naming your character Bruce Campbell. It doesn't bother me. For me, it doesn't add anything, and it's obviously important to the guy writing the movie, so go for it. It's not interruptive. It doesn't get in the way too much. But when you start working it into dialogue, and when you start referencing stuff in that really on the nose way that maybe is well-meaning and supposed to be a tribute and a tip of the hat, etc., etc., there's just a huge part of me that looks at it and thinks, take it out and it's better. So when it interrupts the narrative or the performances, it bugs me. When it doesn't, I don't care. Call your character fucking Ronald McDonald. I do not mind. But yeah, it's tricky in this movie because it's almost like there's a break in the action for like a moment, which sucks. But maybe it needs it. I'm not a pro, and maybe without that, it felt too serious. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I know that they pulled some gore out of the movie because they thought it was too much, and it sort of hurt your relationship with those characters to see them die in such a horrible way.
But it's okay for the dog to yank out your guts for about 5 minutes.
That's a bandage. That's not his guts.
It's his guts.
It's a bandage.
No way, dude. That's his guts.
That is a white bandage with some blood on it.
What?
Sorry.
I thought that was his guts.
I think what I read somewhere was that it was originally planned to be his guts. And then they were like, let's make it into a bandage because the guts is too much. And then a lot of people thought it was the guts anyway.
I thought he was saying like, the dog's yanking my guts out my fucking arsehole or something. Maybe
I don't think he says that, but okay. No. But yeah, no, I completely agree. I think like you reference a movie by having the spirit of that. I think there's a spirit of Evil Dead here, outside of like the literal we're in a cabin in a remote location and people are trying to fuck us up with their horror shit. Like there is a spirit of Evil Dead in this. There is a spirit of Predator and a spirit of Aliens and a spirit like you can have that spirit without being like, oh look, this bit's Aliens. We're doing Aliens now.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that hurts me.
Yeah.
And hurts the movie for me is when we're like, look,
but that's
you like Aliens, I like Aliens too. We're the same. We're mates.
But that's all it is. That's the referencing, isn't it? Like the rest of it is just being a filmmaker. It's like I saw A Bridge Over the River Kwai. I saw Aliens. I saw fucking Predator, and I've made a movie. You might spot my influences, but I'm also running around pointing at things and shouting, "Look, it's Evil Dead." So that's I don't like it personally, but I know some people literally cheer that shit in cinemas. Someone will make the reference and someone will cheer, and it's for them, I guess. It's not for us.
Yeah, I think you can do it in a way that doesn't pause the movie and the director walks out and says, "I like Aliens," and then walks back behind the curtain and presses play. Like you can do it in a way that you don't need to do that.
I would love it if I could see that happen for some of my favorite movies, though. That would be fantastic. Yeah, no, I agree. It's no fun for people who are really in the movie and enjoying it, and it's bags of fun for people who are just kind of not us, I guess. Anyway, fuck them. I don't care. That new Alien movie where the character literally says "you bitch" and everyone went nuts in the cinema when I was like, God, you could have just not done that. We get it. It's her. Fine. But
I haven't seen Alien Romulus yet.
I just ruined that for you then, haven't I?
I don't care.
The best movies, the movies in your top 5 that maybe aren't horror movies, for example, do not have a single reference to another movie in them. I guarantee. Maybe top 10.
I mean,
A direct on the nose reference where someone says, I'm doing Cape Fear. It's not a thing.
I mean, in my top 5 is Gremlins 2. And there is a scene where a gremlin turns into a bat and flies through the wall, and it is the Batman logo.
With the Batman music.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's fine.
Yeah, that's a cartoon, right? We're doing a Looney Tunes cartoon when we're in Gremlins 2. We're not doing a movie where a man makes a long and impassioned speech about it's okay that he's going to die because he's been on loads of different missions and he just doesn't make it back this time.
Yeah.
And then a minute earlier he said there is no spoon because his mate died. Like,
yeah, that's not good writing. I love that he's open about, like, absolutely it would be devastating to him to not see his wife again. It's great he's open about that. He talks about how he signed up for the army to give his life for the Queen, for the army. Yeah. And that comes across as totally earnest, wholly believable, and like you said, it's immediately undermined by jokester, japester bullshit and bad lads bants. So, look, I'm not criticizing it for that. I honestly think that's pitch perfect for some audiences. They're probably Dutch and American, and that's absolutely fine. It just fucking skirts the edges of being unwatchable for me at times. But that's my relationship with English horror, and that's for me to deal with in my own way in therapy.
That's my relationship with all horror. It doesn't have to, it's not an English problem, I don't think. Although I do think when you get a very on-the-nose reference to an American thing in an English thing, it does feel somehow more jarring.
That's horrible. Would you say that you have an English movie in your all-time top 5?
Yeah, The Wicker Man.
Oh yeah, that's an English movie. Yeah, good point.
Well, it's Scottish, actually. But
Borderlands?
Not in my top 5. Top 20, maybe.
This is where we insert a bit from that episode of you going, this is the greatest movie of all time. My absolute all-time favourite movie.
That's you. You didn't even like it. You just say that.
The Wicker Man remake is my all-time favourite movie. I can't believe you don't like it.
I think that's the end of this podcast and the end of my life.
I love that movie. Oh, boy. So, yeah, listen, a movie, for me, lives and dies by the believability and the buy-in ability of its core central characters and the delivery of their dialogue and the things they say. So the fact that this movie sucks in so many ways on that level, but is so relentlessly entertaining and enjoyable on every other level. I spoiler, it's not evening it out at a middle-of-the-road score. I think this is a fucking really fun movie, and it's one that I can see myself watching again.
Yeah, I think
high praise.
There are two movies that butt up against each other here. There is the good, earnest werewolf versus soldiers action drama.
Yeah,
that's taking place, and then there's this little goofy short film that they've like intercut, and that's I agree. Like, it's not enough to make me not like the movie.
Yeah,
but it's enough that I can fucking point it out on my podcast 45 times.
Yeah, it's enough that I maybe would think twice about watching it again. Look at it that way, because I know I'm going to have to watch that football shit. I'm going to have to look down the barrel of a gun while someone says they think it's all over. It is now. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Skip. No. Just a big, hard, hot, heavy no on that. But fine.
Yeah.
Some people love it. Some men will come when they see that bit.
But surely not, because the men who that's for, the football men, of which, like, you skirt that. There's a little overlap.
I'm
on
a
the Venn
football
diagram.
man. I play football all the fucking time. I'm as much a football man as I am, I don't know, a bread man.
Yeah? You're made out of footballs.
I'm actually off bread at the moment because of my diet to become a much better football player. No, not true. I love football.
But yeah, the football man audience, you can love football and not be a football man. Do you know what I mean?
I hate talking about football with anyone ever.
The sort of person that's like, oh, did you see the match last night?
Even if I have, I just say no.
Yeah, well, the way that, like, some men can build a fleeting friendship over football in a bar.
Yeah. Sure.
Like those guys.
Yeah.
Like the guys that ask me what team I support when I'm at work and I say,
Wales.
no, I don't say anything.
Like someone brings up football and someone goes, "Oh no, penalty shootouts." It's like
Well, that's what I mean.
somebody
Like,
doesn't know what they're talking about, saying
So,
things really unnaturally.
so who is that for? Because we don't like it as like patently not football men. And then
Yeah,
the people who Danny Dyer probably doesn't like it, and he's probably a big football man. Do you know what I mean?
It feels like poorly executed pandering to those football men, which is why I don't like it. Don't
Yeah.
pander to the football men. Just make the movie you wanted to make.
Yeah. All right, Sam, let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll give our sum ups and final thoughts on the movie Dog Soldiers that we've been talking about for a while.
On the podcast today, final transmission. Quick break.
Will you give it up, man? Nobody's out there. We're alone. Oh no, there's somebody out there. I'm picking up all this crosstalk.
Whoa, I'm back. Are you back?
I am so back.
Are
I'm
you
just
ready
back.
to advertise and promote our podcast that we're already doing right now?
Well, we're not promoting the podcast, Sam. We're promoting engaging with us on social media.
We're promoting a cult of personality around our podcast.
Yeah, at FT Horror Show. You can see clips from upcoming episodes.
Uh-oh.
On our TikTok, particularly, you can see trailers for VHS horror movies taped on my combo from my VHS collection.
A real life VHS collection. You don't have to go buy them. You don't have to even buy a VHS player and or a TV. You can just go to FT Horror Show on the TikTok and watch it for free.
Watch trailers, and I pick the trailers. Some of them are shit, so I don't show them. But there are some good trailers on there.
Good, just go. Just trust me.
Yeah.
Don't listen to Jamie. He's going to talk you out of it. Just go and watch it and follow it.
But also, pull out your phone. You're listening to this right now. You're probably on a phone. Go to wherever you're listening to this on. Rate us 5 stars. Write a little review. Oh, this podcast was great. I liked it when they insulted me, a football man.
And I also liked it when they insulted me, everyone else. So apologies to Americans, the Dutch, the Welsh, the Scottish, and everyone who likes football. I'm really sorry.
I liked it when they insulted me, Neil Marshall.
And my life's work that they said they loved, but then slagged off for 2 hours. Fuck, we've lost our way. Anyway, follow us on Instagram. It's great banter. Jamie does a great job on there. You can also tell your friends. Once you've had a great experience over there on them socials and pumped our plums across the entire internet, go tell your buddies at the pub while you're talking about football.
Yeah. Be like, oh, do you know who didn't foul in the penalty box? Sam Russo, when he talked about dog soldiers.
Next time you're at the bar and someone is looking at you like they're about to say something football related and you're just like, please fucking don't. Just turn around to them and go, have you ever listened to Final Transmission podcast? You should. And then leave.
They'll have already gone by that point, I think.
Do it at a urinal. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
That's where I promote my podcast.
Is that what they call it now?
Yeah, one dick at a time. That's my motto.
Okay, Sam. Summing up, right?
Yep.
There are some egregious dialogue crimes in this.
Whoops.
There are some moments of silliness that I think are that are bordering on the unforgivable.
They're a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this movie is great.
Yeah.
I think it's very clear that it's the same person that wrote The Descent.
Would you? A quick question. Would you say The Descent is a more accomplished movie?
Yeah, I think that they deal in quite a lot of the same themes. But whatever the problem that Neil Marshall has with women, or whatever thing that was going on in his life that made him think that it's okay to write that dialogue and have a woman speak it, he's obviously got over that by The Descent.
By the time, yeah. I like this more, for the record.
Okay. I mean, there are some problems with the characterization of women in The Descent, but not, I've got my period and I'm the bitch on heat or whatever. Like, there's none of that stuff.
There's bigger problems with the characterization of soldiers in this movie about soldiers than there is of anything else. So, yeah, all of it gets a pass for today only.
Like I say, I think that sometimes Neil Marshall sacrifices good in the search for cool.
Yeah.
And almost always misses. The only line that's cool, that's written to be a cool line that lands, is that Red Riding Hood, chin the bitch line.
It's better when you say it than in the movie. It's very quotable, but not so great in situ.
So
a lot like "Suck Me Beautiful," one of the best lines
I've
to
been
quote.
thinking about that line quite a lot lately as well. I don't know.
It's because you hang out with me.
Also,
I will say that daily in the most inappropriate situation possible. I said it yesterday at a funeral. So listen, some lines that are horrible in movies are great to quote in the wider world.
What about "I hope I give you the shits, you fucking wimp"?
Yeah, that was great. And then spitting in his face. I love that. Superb.
I like that because the idea that you call a werewolf a wimp, it's so funny.
And there's a lot in this movie where real people would be swearing loads more and they'd be using different language. They'd be calling the fucking wolf a nonce. They'd be using different words.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it, when it works is when that is accidentally really funny. Like then, calling a wolf a wimp is not what that guy would say in real life. So I love that. Mad respect for that. Anyway, I've just completely stolen your sum up. I'm sorry, carry on.
It's okay. I love also... We get a miniature house exploding at the end. I love watching a miniature thing explode.
And to be honest, I had to look real closely to tell it was a miniature. I thought it was a great explosion.
It's just really good. I love watching things explode. And if the flames look way too big to be in relation to the house or the thing that's exploding, even better. Love that.
I think because we grew up on Red Dwarf, we love that way more than we should. Definitely seeded that for me the rest of my life. I love watching miniatures explode.
Absolutely. So score wise, I would give Dog Soldiers 6 Chekhov's letter openers out of 9.
I'm amazed you didn't have a bigger problem with that letter opener.
I love it. It's so funny. We're not in the movie yet, so it doesn't matter that dialogue is insane. I got you a letter opener. It's solid silver. If a werewolf comes along, maybe we could stab them.
Stab it. Yeah. So good. Yeah. In situ, again, it works. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
My summary of this movie is super simple. I love a ripping horror action movie. When it's done well, it's some of my favorite shit to just kick back and enjoy. So this movie entertained me borderline endlessly. If I didn't have to talk about it on a podcast, I would have just accepted everything that happened in front of me as really fun and stupid. There's some really good performances in this that I think are a little bit overshadowed by some horrible dialogue choices. My take on that is that this is when you're clearly out of place and you start acting like the people around you. That's what the dialogue in this feels like. Like you're the nerd at the cool guy party, or you're just in a place where you don't know how to be natural and you say things that are so not like you and you walk away with your head in your hands completely ashamed of everything you are. Some dialogue choices in that vein, which I know all too well. So the action flies in this movie. The werewolves look fantastic. I love every second that we're in the thick of combat, which isn't usually my thing. Just had a complete blast. I'm going to give it 8 dogs tugging my guts out of 13. Just really good fun.
Nice.
For an English movie, that's like the gold standard for me. I've never rated an English movie well here on this thing with you.
It's true. I mean, you liked Extro, didn't you?
I like that it exists.
Yeah, you enjoyed the experience of watching Extro. Is a way of talking around.
Yeah, watching it and then talking to you about it is what I loved. What I hated is that it was English. All the English stuff killed me.
I think a thing about Dog Soldiers that makes it like pretty rewatchable is that we foreshadow the fact that Megan is a baddie, and like it's pretty heavily foreshadowed throughout, but you never really know. And then so when she comes out and says all that stuff about her period and how she's a bitch or whatever, when you rewatch it, you can like reassess that dialogue and the weird things that she does that you're not really thinking, oh, I wonder if she's communicating with the wolves with her eyes and telling them to do something with the barn or whatever. So like you can go back and you can re-experience that from like a different point of view. And that does give it an additional layer of rewatch rather than just like, this was fun and I'll rewatch it. You can get something different out of it on a rewatch.
I would say a surprising amount of rewatch value in this, and just enjoying Liam Cunningham's end-to-end performance. You get to see him do some cool stuff. Not enough, in my opinion. And yeah, just as a movie that's part of an English horror canon, and an area of English horror that's not really explored enough, real fun army-based action horror. It feels like a game you would play with your friends in the woods when you're 13, made into a feature-length movie with a completely adequate budget and just a well-executed, decent, taut little plot. So yeah, I'm a fan.
Yeah, the editing I think is one of the biggest stars here. Like they were very, very careful just to make sure that in most cases that it was tight, and if something shit happens, we move on really quickly. Like
Absolutely.
It almost never lingers.
It's really well shot as well. Just so tastefully done. There's some anything down a scope looks hyper real in this, which adds to it so much. You want to believe that you're in a maneuvers/combat eventually situation. And it does it really well by putting you in that first person POV and making it look really realistic and not Hollywooding the life out of it. So,
yeah, I don't rate the wolf vision stuff. It's just like black and white.
Yeah, pretty skimmable. Could have done an Evil Dead thing there and I would have been fine with it.
Yeah, well, they sort of did an Evil Dead shot with the werewolf running through the woods, and so we're running through the trees. Presumably they did like the steady cam on a plank thing.
Yeah. But I tell you what I don't need is werewolf POV at all. I need soldier POV to, really bolster that jeopardy. But, it was fine. It was there.
Yeah, I think ever since we watched Wolfen, shout out to, I don't know, episode 8 or whatever that was.
Yeah, way back.
That was such good, like, badio vision.
Yeah.
And obviously it's Wolfen. There is a connection there. No spoilers. But the way that that's characterized in that is just much better. I'm not going to say anything else about Dog Soldiers because I fucking proved you right, didn't I? You said that I was going to be hypercritical about a film that I love. And here we are being hypercritical about a film that I love.
Yep. Even after you've rated it and given a summary.
Exactly.
Still going to town.
Do you know what? Being nice to podcasters will get you nowhere. Being nice to me will get your movie that I love ripped to shreds.